Good evening, everyone. God bless you. Tonight, we are with Moria during this March 20th, 2018, Tuesday with Moria. I'm David Christopher Lewis, your host, and I'm grateful for the wisdom, the enlightened teaching of Al Moria Khan, the Chohan of the first ray of God's holy will, the blue ray, one who is a sponsor of our Heart Center community and movement, one who has fathered many nations as Abraham, and one who we can look to for inspiration and guidance on our divine path of oneness with God as we attend to the voice within and seek God's will in all things. First, Al Moria would like to share a teaching on how a divine economy is co-created and driven by divine work, divine service, divine givingness. What is divine work? Divine work is work that is inspired by God. Work that is authorized by God. Work in which God is glorified and magnified. When we are engaged in divine work, we consecrate and dedicate that work to a holy cause. It is a spiritual cause rather than just a cause to earn money, to, quote, make a living, end quote. Divine work engages our souls in its affairs. And because our souls are engaged, that part of us which is born of Spirit, of God, is therefore engaged. We put our all into this divine work, which is often sacrificial and requires us to invest the fullness of ourselves in order for it to be fully validated by the divine, sanctified, blessed, and then released for the benefit of all sentient beings. Divine work edifies the mind, inspires the soul, it expands the heart, and it encourages us to enter into a new, divinely willful state of being, which is a state of being that is in alignment with God's will. Divine work is holy work. Although we don't necessarily have to engage with work that is part of a religion or even a spiritual organization for that work to be divine. When we are heart-centered, when we are focused upon the light, when inspired impressions come to us from our source and from that inner reservoir of divine beingness that we all have deep within us, then that work can proceed wonderfully, magnificently, magically, to be of such benefit to others that we too are benefited, that all life is raised, that a new sense of brother-sisterhood manifests. Divine work always is work that assists the whole rather than just one part of the whole. because it looks forward rather than backward, upward rather than downward. It looks toward a higher world of divine principles and values that we can all live within if we choose to do so now. We don't have to wait for a perfect world to engage in divine work. We are perfecting this world through divine work, even as we perfect our hearts, our wills, and our minds through divine work. And this perfecting is not perfunctorial human perfection of the mind. It is the synthesis of beingness through the aperture of self, our consciousness that allows the higher mind, the higher heart, the higher will to engage us in its divine affairs. Divine work is beautiful. Often it is manifest as creative work where we move beyond our human self into our divine self. And in that level of beingness and vibration and frequency where we actually can feel our presence and we feel the light of our presence flowing through us, it becomes obvious to us and to others that that work is holy, causative of great God good in the world, on behalf of ourselves, our families, our communities, our nations, and our world. What is divine service? Divine service is loving service that adds divine value and expands God's kingdom, God's dominion upon earth as it is already in heaven. Divine service is loving, selfless service that helps others and in an enlightened self-interest means also helps us, the servitor. Servitors are those who offer divine service. Servitors are servers who are consecrated to fulfilling God's will within their sacred service. They place others above self. The Rotary Club has a motto, service above self. And a corollary, he, or I can say she, profits most who serves best. In other words, when we are giving great service, we also profit from that service by the good karma that we make, by the return current of that givingness and service, which we know accrues back to ourselves, unto our causal bodies, and is a blessing to us even as we are giving that service. Often we feel the light manifesting through us as we offer and give something of value to another. There is a melding of our hearts. There is a strengthening of our collective wills. There is a merging of our mindfulness in those sacred moments when, within the act of service, divine service, there is a reconnection of each of us with our higher self, with the heart of life itself, and the blessing is bestowed. The ambience of grace manifests within the auric field of the collective of the giver and the one to whom the gift is given. Divine givingness is giving to God first and man second. Jesus said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and unto God what is God's." This was a magnificent answer and retort to those who are attempting to entrap Jesus through the question, hoping that he would be at odds with Rome and Caesar so that they could then arrest him for some sort of perceived crime. He was not so much at odds with the political system. He was in alignment with God's divine system of how to give righteously. And so attend to the things of the flesh as required, and attend to the things of the Spirit as God within you inspires you to attend to them. Both are essential. Eventually we see both really as one. When we tend to things upon earth in a very mundane with a spiritual attitude of gratitude, then those mundane levels of service or givingness become blessed, sanctified, and graced by the spirituality within the service or givingness. To co-create this divine economy and to drive it forward requires many servitors upon earth who are part of many different spiritual movements and organizations, families and communities. And as each one does his or her part to anchor this divine economy tangibly through our work, our service, and our givingness, we do indeed fulfill Jesus' words in the Lord's Prayer, the Our Father, "Thy kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven." And we can receive from on high that bread bestowed by God. "Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses or our debts, even as we forgive those who trespass against us, or forgive our debtors." Even in forgiving, we see the word give. And so forgiving is a type of giving that moves us forward because we release any angst or attachment that we may have had to a situation, an issue, a problem, that now we see the solution being to forgive. So remember, this forgiving allows us to give so that we can move forward on our path. The divine economy can be driven forward magnificently by spiritual aspirants who are initiates, who take decisive action when they see the need of the hour, call upon God's will, invoke God's will to manifest, to descend upon earth, and to carve out a new pathway of light so that every light bearer, worker, and sharer may walk that path back to the heart of God. If you desire to be an initiate of the sacred fire, you must be a divine giver, divine server, and engaged in divine work. You must be a servitor par excellence, attending to the details that are involved in your service so that you cross every T, dot every I, with love, with great acuity, consciousness, understanding. You know exactly what you are doing, why you are doing it, who you are doing it for, and in the timetable of God, and according to the cycles of life and light, that work, that service, that givingness will bear fruit. It will bear seed that can be planted again so that new offerings of work, service, and givingness may proceed forth in the future. The importance of the tithe is that the tithe is simply reseeding the earth with the abundance that God has given us through this amazing architecture of nature. We follow nature and taking that seed and replanting it. This is what tithing is. If we hold all of the fruit in our coffers, if we eat all of the fruit without saving the seed and replanting it, we ignore nature itself and its ways. Tithing is a universal law because it is what God set forth in nature to have there be an ongoingness of creation through the seeds that are scattered abroad or around for new life to come forward. We engage in procreation, in the co-creation of new life. In a sense, this also is tithing. Our energy through the procreative act so that a new life form may emerge. It's the same as seeding the earth in new gardens so that plants can come forth. Had you ever thought of procreation as actually being a form of tithing back to the world and to mankind so that new life could come forth? It is. Tithing is essential for the rebirth within us of new life energy, new ideas, new concepts, new creativity. If we do not give back to glorify God and to magnify the Lord through what we have received as the abundant life that we have been privileged to partake of, then we are ignorant, completely ignorant of the way life works, how things proceed, how important it is to sustain a family, a community, a nation, a world through givingness, through service, through work. In our Heart Center community, many of us tithe our net income, and we attempt to tithe our time, 2.4 hours a day out of a 24-hour day period, to God in prayers and in service. We have 3-hour morning broadcasts from 7 to 10 a.m. Mountain Time. And during these 3 hours, at least 2.4 hours of that time is an opportunity for us to give back and tithe our time to God before we proceed forward with our day. Now, depending on your time zone, you may or may not be able to listen to or watch the entire broadcast, and so many of you may watch it later in the evening when you return from work or when you are able, or on another day. Yet it's important to engage in the sacredness of what is offered through this activity if you desire to be on the initiatic path in order to sustain within yourself the word that comes forth through the Ascended Masters, through their heartstrings, because these edify us, they inspire deep seeds of light within us, they plant engrams of God consciousness within our souls. And if we aren't partaking of these, if we're only working and not listening to the word and partaking of this higher vibration and frequency through the Master's messages, we're lacking something. And we don't have that edge of spiritual understanding that we could had we engaged in studying these teachings through the reverent and very conscious observance and listening of the living words of the Masters of Light, East and West. This morning, Archangel Michael came with a very fiery message, and he called to task the principalities and powers of darkness, the deep state, the false hierarchy, the fallen angels, the matrix, and he named a number of institutions and matrices of darkness that had to be judged or brought to divine justice. You can listen to that message, and within it there was a series of fiats by Archangel Michael calling to task the 6 major banking institutions of these United States of America. And I'll repeat them: JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, Bank of New York Mellon, and U.S. Bank Corp. He named the Fed, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Zionists, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, Council on Foreign Relations, the military-industrial complex. He named the major entertainment industry businesses, including GE, Comcast, Walt Disney, Time Warner, CBS, Viacom, 21st Century Fox, and News Corp. He named Monsanto, Bayer, and Dow Chemical, all those engaged in the pharmaceutical industry were not in alignment with God's will, and he named much more. Why did he do this today? Because we are engaged in a battle of Armageddon, and we are literally fighting for our right to exist as free men and women in a free society, to co-create a divine economy that we desire to be driven by divine work, divine service, and divine givingness, rather than that which glorifies the human through humanism, that which glorifies the ego, also called the tyrant ego dweller, that which glorifies the lower nature, evil itself. A divine economy glorifies God. It brings light into the equation, and so at times we must challenge the forces of darkness that are attempting to install not a divine economy, but a global economy of mechanization man through artificial intelligence, as it is now expanding throughout the world through many of the great moneyed interests, and as it is attempting also to limit us individually in our co-creativity. Social media has become something that is innocuous and dark as a whole, where we are interacting with computers, cell phones, tablets, you name it, rather than each other, heart to heart, person to person. It may be a time soon when we put aside a lot of this technology and choose consciously to again work within our families and our communities in a very conscious and personable way to recreate the Eden that we deserve to be upon earth and that we choose to manifest through brother sisterhood and service and work and giving us heart to heart to heart to heart. We are almost becoming like computers in that we use so much of our time with this electronic media. Of course, I'm coming to you through this electronic media today. It has its blessings and its opportunities, yet it also has the dark side. We choose to use it for righteousness, for good, to broadcast the truth, the way, and the life of the living Christ, and the ways of virtue and righteousness. And by choosing rightly, we fulfill God's will within our service, our work, our givingness. We use the media for God's ends rather than for human ends, the ends of our lower nature. El Morya and the Masters of Light and Love are concerned about this economy because as the economy of America goes, so goes the economy of the world. We have seen it through the rise and fall of the stock market. We have seen it through what the Fed is doing with the manipulation of interest rates. The Fed was never meant to be. It is a creation of the international banksters at Chuckle Island. You can do your own research. The Fed should be monitored, and one day the prayer of the righteous ones of heaven is that this institution, not voted upon by American voters, will be dissolved, even as eventually the form of the IRS in its current form will be dissolved. And there will be a better system where we will not be taxed out of our inheritances and our givingnesses. We will give a percentage so that communities can be sustained and nations can enjoy the wealth that they deserve because the citizens are conscious and giving their highest for the collective good of all, rather than taxes being stolen or monies hard-earned are taken before they're even applied to the giver, the worker, the servitor. In past Golden Age civilizations, there were much better economic circumstances and matrices in these societies. And one day we may read more about these as the Akashic records are opened even more, and we can learn exactly how these societies coexisted in peace for thousands of years, with everyone being able to give their best, their highest, and where there was not want, where there were no poor. Everyone had what was required. Any surplus that manifest was distributed righteously, not by a governmental system that demanded it and took it from the hard work of many. It was a natural, sustainable matrix where people lived by mores of truth, values, and principles of righteousness, and everyone benefited from the collective, which was a type of holy community, a Holy Spirit community, not a communist or socialistic system that demeans the individual for the benefit of the collective. It was a greater type of collective, of the highest and the brightest, rising and assisting all, the leaders being those with the greatest attainment, would of course work on behalf of all as good shepherds and stewards, commissioned by God into those positions to assist through their wisdom, their righteousness, their godliness. we can have this type of civilization and society again upon earth, yet it will take sacrificial giving of the light bearers to call to task those who work for darkness and invoke the legions of heaven to put them in their place and to simultaneously co-create a most glorious and beautiful world by bringing Eden back through the work of our hands, the love of our hearts, the mindfulness of our higher minds. This is El Moria's message for tonight. Thank you and God bless you. God sustain you in the glory of your presence. God encourage you through the inner wisdom that flows through your intuition, your inner mindfulness. And God grace you always with many blessings for you and your families and your communities, for the victory of the light now and always. Amen. Thank you so much.